Very good. Very good. It's 1:30, and so we begin the Liquor Control Board meeting for today. We have a few items on the agenda, and we'll begin with number one, approve minutes of the February 21st, 2024 regular meeting. We have those before us if there are any changes or corrections. Otherwise, we would accept a motion.
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other changes or corrections or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries. Number two, review liquor applications, and 2A is AKC Hoff LLC, doing business as Good Times on NP, and this is a Class C license. Steve Sprague, City Auditor, will get us started. Steve.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for your attendance today, Liquor Control Board. As Tatiana was pointing out, we only missed 1 month, but it seems like it's been a long time.
For sure.
It's good to see your smiling faces again. So we received an application for a Class C, which is a beer-only alcoholic beverage license for 623 NP Avenue in downtown Fargo, and this is a Class C, which allows a bar. It does not require food sales, and it's beer only. In the application, there were a few items that were listed in the background check. However, those are a little bit on the dated side, and it does come with a recommendation from the police department. The intent of this business is to operate like a comedy club, open mic nights, area musicians, that type of thing. And Mr. Hoff is here if you want to ask him any questions about the business.
And if you want to go ahead and speak at that podium and give your name, that'd be great. And if anybody has any questions, we'd appreciate it. But if you want to give us a brief description, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. My name's Cordell Hoff. We're starting a comedy club, speakeasy style. We're going to have open mic nights, local talent, and on the regular nights, we're just going to have just a beer bar with a lot of micro distilleries, a lot of unique things, stuff like that. We're looking at that 30-plus crowd. We're not into, that younger style like what was across the street years ago. We want to make it just a relaxed place for business people, anybody that just wants to go to a lower paced environment and just have a good time.
Do you have any questions from anybody? I guess if you don't mind, I'll ask one question. So what are your hours? How will that be?
We're looking at being open from 4 in the afternoon till midnight.
Okay, and then, like you said, it's going to be performances. Is that going to be most nights, or is that just occasionally?
Occasionally, yep.
Okay. And then I guess, Steve, from the perspective of, so now they know this is just a beer license. So what happens sometimes is they start out with beer and then it ends up growing to other things. They're aware that what does this one cost? And if they wanted to expand, how would that go?
Yes, sir. So the initial issuance fee for this license is $7,500. If they get 30 days down the road and they decide, we really need to have wine too, we can add a W license to this. The W license is an additional $7,500. And if they, wanted to go beyond that and get full alcohol, then they would have to find a license or wait until we have one available. And those are the more expensive licenses where it's a full bar. So.
Just one more thing. Do they have to provide the floor plan and capacity, or is that through the health department?
So there is a floor plan that is provided in the application that we have at our office. We don't always include it in your packet, but we do have that floor plan. It is reviewed when we get these applications in. We route them to police, fire, health, building inspections. We want to make sure that the building is established or is set up with the proper bathrooms and exits and all of that type of stuff. All of the departments have signed off on this, and so this building is been appropriately rated. I don't know the occupancy capacity right offhand, but we could certainly find that.
Okay, and then you have to have the police will do checks to make sure you're checking IDs and things like that. The other thing I would say was I would encourage you to get some type of scanner. That's a few of our places are trying that now, but I'd recommend that if you can. But anyway, go ahead.
The occupancy rating is 189 people, but we do not anticipate to have near that amount.
Any other questions? Does anybody have any?
And so the scanners, Health has scanners that are available to loan. If you would like to use one of those, they're the kind that were shown here by the state agency that displayed the scanners for us in February. And the other thing that I will say too is make sure that all your employees have gone through the server training program that's available online and get that done.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Go
I've
ahead.
got a quick couple questions and a comment. So the vast majority of revenue is going to be from the beer sales, or will there be tickets sold or cover charge or?
The tickets or the cover charges and that, I want to give that back to the performers. It's basically going to be the beer sales, correct?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and I guess I have a comment, and has nothing against you and your plan or whatever, but in my experience, and this has been statewide, beer bars, beer only bars, one, they have a tough time making it because there is a growing section of people that go out that would prefer cocktails or wine. And that puts a lot of pressure on beer only bars. Also, beer doesn't have as good of a margin as spirits too. So the danger in that is that if a beer bar runs into tough times, and again, this is historical, nothing against your plan or personally, it's just something that I want to mention. We tend to see heavy discounting on the beer sales to try to draw people in or into your, on your nights where you're not have entertainment and drawing a crowd that way. So, I don't believe the city can tell you how to price or how to promote or whatever. But I just want to put that on the record as us being advisors to the city, that the history of beer-only bars throughout the state of North Dakota has not been good. And what we, as a board, what we're concerned about is the eventual pandering of beer at very low prices. $2 pitchers, 50-cent beers, et cetera, to get people in, creates a lot of problems. And in a way, you're getting in with a lot less capital as far as licenses compared to who you're competing with. And that becomes a problem if it creates, downward price pressure in the industry, which is not good in beverage alcohol, even though it might be good for some of the consumers. So I just wanted to mention that. I think, that's a responsibility I think you're going to have to consider. And, I hope you're as successful as can be. Comedy clubs are great. But if it becomes, well, we got to bring in a rock band and cram 200 people into our $189 person capacity, it creates a lot of problems in the city. So that's just a comment.
We are going to also offer mocktails. That was our focus at the beginning. And I just needed to couple this together because there are a lot of people that do want to have a beer along with sitting at a comedy club. I don't anticipate them to sit there the whole day. It's more of a 4 or 5 hour, 3 hour, get together with some friends, have a good environment where you can sit down and talk to each other across the table without yelling.
And I, just to mention, you mentioned that you were going to feature micro distilleries. You meant you're going to feature micro brewing type places, right?
I'm going to focus on the micro products that are out there, like
Not distilleries, though, but breweries. Yeah.
breweries, correct? Yep.
All right.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we'll accept a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And 2B, the request from the Boiler Room, Marge's Bar, to forfeit the Class FA and operate under the Class Z. Steve, thank you.
So just roll back a little bit in December. Well, prior to that, we advertised for the availability of a Class Z license. We received one application. That license was issued then to Mr. Dan Herder and his group. Now, I want to make a distinction at the Boiler Room and Marge's Bar. Marge's Bar is different than Marge's Diner. Marge's Diner is up on Broadway, and Marge's Bar is in the old Stumbinos. They've been able to operate both with one license in the past because you can move freely from the Boiler Room into Marge's Bar and back into the Boiler Room without having to go, into the outside and all that type of stuff. And so it's in Dan's best interest at this point to forfeit the FA and then just use the Z to operate that business, continuing with the same model. So it doesn't change the net number of licenses. It doesn't really change his business model or his business plan or anything like that.
So would you say you're in support of this and you've been working with us basically? And so,
Yeah, we had conversations fairly early on, and I requested a letter, and he got busy with some other things, and it took him a little while to get the letter. And then we took a month off from this board too. And so the other question that I've had in the past is, has anybody else done this? And Labby's up on 19th did basically the same thing. They started with an FA and then moved to the Z. The interesting thing with Dan Labernick said, about a year after he had the Z, he said his food sales had gone up. So crazy thing, right? Get a license where you don't have to sell food, and all of a sudden you're selling more than you ever did.
okay, thanks. And if you don't mind giving your name and then just giving a little description, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Dan Herder. I own the Boiler Room and Marge's Bar. And Steve pretty much covered everything, but yeah, I just didn't really ask the question when we first applied. The intent was to just hang on to both licenses and then maybe seek to peel one off and do another concept down the road. But the reality is those FA licenses are readily available, so it didn't really make sense to hold one until that time. So I just circled back to Steve and asked the question.
That's awesome. And my unsolicited comment is your spinach dip with bacon is the best.
Thank you.
I travel miles around to come. I'm glad you don't live close to my house because I'd eat it every day, but that's my recommendation for today. Any other comments or questions about this? And we don't have to do a background check it's just basically a transfer, correct?
It's forfeiting a license, and then he's already got both licenses at this point. What it does is it makes it so that he doesn't have to pay the $105,000. He only has to pay the difference and operate under one license. So
Very good. Any other questions from anyone? Otherwise, we would accept a motion.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead. Sorry about
So
that.
in effect, he's going to get a discount on the license. FAs, does the city buy them back when they leave, or is it their responsibility to sell it on the market usually?
well, he's going to just forfeit it. We don't buy it back. And what we've done in the past when somebody has upgraded their license class is charge them the difference from the current license structure that
Okay,
they
so
have
that's precedent. Okay,
to the new license structure.
All
So if they were going from a GH to an F, they would pay the difference between the 1,800 that a GH costs and a 3,000 that an F costs.
understood.
Yep.
That's good.
Okay.
Very good. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next is the Police Department monthly report and general report with Chief Zabalski.
Good afternoon, Board. Thanks, Steve. Let's go here. Okay. First, I'm just covering our monthly report that you receive. We did have a homicide that occurred on March 28th outside of Southtown Poorhouse. And that investigation revealed that there was it didn't have anything to do with the operations of Southtown Poorhouse. Both individuals had been inside. They were involved in an altercation, and staff got them outside, kind of pushed them out of the bar, and they ended up in a fight into the parking lot near the sidewalk area, and that individual was arrested the next day. So just for your edification, no issues there with Southtown. They cooperated fully with our investigation, so that was great. A couple other things on the March report, the aggravated assault at Old Broadway that's still being reviewed by the Cass County State's Attorney's Office. Was a fight that, again, started inside, went outside. Actually, they pushed them out also, and they, some minor injuries there. And then the simple assault at the Empire Bar, and that one involved a bouncer. And no charges were issued. Both were referred for simple assault, and the prosecutor's office didn't charge either party. But there is a little bit of a conflict where the bouncer was asking the individual to leave over some issues that were happening inside the bar, and then physically decided to grab that person to get them to leave, and that's when the exchange of fisticuffs occurred. So again, just not certain if this individual went through the de-escalation training, but that might have been a good application. In either event, there weren't any other issues related to the operation of the establishment.
So Chief, just a quick question. So it would be good for us, to this point, do the bars that you talked about, do they cooperate as far as giving you video that you request?
In these instances, yes, we did have cooperation, so no issues at all. We did have shots fired investigation and an attempt murder that happened in February at the Cairo. That's still under investigation. There are a number of things that are concerning to us that we are continuing to look into, and probably will have a better grasp and more information for you at the next meeting.
And with the Cairo, that was a new owner and
That was a new owner,
yeah,
yes.
okay. And so but I think part of it is sometimes your communication and knowing what you look for cameras and things like that. I think that'd be great. So anyway,
Yep.
thank you for doing
Yeah,
that.
I'll have more on that next month, I believe. And then just walk you through the data here that I'll provide monthly, just to give you a sense of what's going on. So here's the bar check, and it doesn't display great on that screen, I apologize. But Double Down is actually a new bar in Fargo. And we actually went there just to engage with the owner, so it's really not, there weren't any issues or anything like that. But pretty much, again, spread out in that downtown area, just a couple of pop-ins. We didn't have very many issues at all in March. Top calls for service. Now, this doesn't mean, again, that they were liquor-related issues. Calls for service, meaning, something happened at that location. Again, largely in the downtown area. The Alibi Bar is inside of one of our hotels, I believe the Ramada. We'll be doing a little more work there. It seems to be quite a source of calls and a few other things that we had over the holidays, but just FYI on that. This is the sheet that we just went over. And then just kind of looking at comparable bar checks. 2024 is in gray. So, I mean, really overall, the past couple of months, we have not had very many issues at all within any of our licensed premises, which is great. So hope to see that trend continue, and we've had several of them turn in fake IDs, continue to do that effort. And it kind of shows in the activity of the licensed establishment forms as well. These combined issues, now this is 2023 through March of 24, just in terms of the types of things happening in some of the establishments. But again, 2024, very, very limited activity. Same thing here in terms of over intoxication. So what I think I'll have them do next time is clean this up also with just a clean 24 slide, because we haven't had, I don't think, any that I can remember over intoxication in 24. So this might be a little not as informative as it would like. And so these are the kind of the regular data sets that we'll bring forward every month, and I'm happy to take any questions on that. That concludes my
Any
report.
questions? Well, thank you for sharing that with us. One of the questions I have for you is, so sometimes you get a call from a location, and it's not necessarily for an incident in that. Is there a way we could separate, and maybe you already do separate that out, but do you know what I mean? Sometimes you say something happened near this location, and so then that counts towards that.
Right, so how we separate that out is through the use of those liquor establishment forms. So if the incident had nothing to do with the establishment, we don't do a form. And so as you can see, there's maybe a lot of calls for service. but there's very few forms indicating to you that whatever happened had nothing to do with the establishment.
Very good. Any other questions? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is other items. 4A is Royal Liquors reconsider server training administrative penalty. The original motion by Hackman, seconded by Stibbe. Steve?
So a little bit of an unusual item here. So after our last meeting in February, where we had a couple of items with server training and with serving a minor, Royal Liquors served a minor, and we had, the original motion was to assess the administrative penalty for not having the server training. Subsequent to that meeting, I was provided the documentation that showed that they did have server training. And so what we need is a motion from the board, and it can be anybody since it was a unanimous vote, to reconsider that vote, and then a motion to abate the penalty or whatever, not apply the penalty. I hope I've explained it clearly enough, but so anyway, this board said you failed the server training and you failed the compliance check. The compliance check part is taken care of. They did fail that. There's no argument with that. The server training side, they provided documentation that shows that they did have server training. So I was informed that we need to undo the motion. So that's what we're trying to do here.
Very good. Any questions about that? Are you willing to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So I have a follow-up question to that. If there's somebody, and this is more for our legal advisor, would it be possible if in going forward, not on this case, but if somebody fails a compliance check, could we ask them to have a scanner as part of the, or does that have to be a separate thing? I guess that's my question, and maybe I'm being too vague, but to me, what I'd like to consider is, instead of imposing a fine, having the option of saying, if you use a scanner, we will waive the fine, or would that be an option?
Well, it's my understanding that there's nothing in the ordinances that allows the Liquor Control Board or City Commission to do that at this time, but I imagine with a ordinance change, that would be feasible.
Okay, so it's something that it would take us a little bit of time to do, and I guess that's my question for our group. Is that something that what do you think of that idea?
I like the idea. I think maybe a question for legal counsel is, if they were willing to put a scanner in under their own volition, and we were willing to release the fine, would that be a quid pro quo, so to speak, in terms of not enforcing the penalty?
Well, I could envision some language being added to the ordinances that says if this is your first offense, you have the option of paying the $500 penalty or getting a ID scanner. But as we've seen, there's a lot of issues with the scanners. What type of scanners? Who would it apply to? Different models and versions. So it would require quite a bit more probably research before that were to be pursued.
So I guess if it's okay with the rest of the group, but maybe you can, we'll put this on the agenda in the future, and you can kind of update us on that. Because for me, I would just like for us to have that option. I don't like the thing about mandating things, but to me, if you fail, and this is a way they might be interested, instead of paying $500 and use one of ours. And I know it wouldn't be indefinitely, but for a period of time, saying, anyway, does anybody have any comments on that? Tatiana, you're the legal expert, and so we should be asking you.
I like the idea, and I also like the idea of using it in a positive way rather than necessarily as a penalty, which would be something like if there are options for almost a safe harbor from a violation. If you were using this, for example, when we had to give a violation when I think it was District 64 that had to use a scanner, they said, if it's more of a safe harbor built in there that protects them from some liability, things like that. So it can also be some protection for the businesses rather than just a penalty. I think it would be good that way as well.
So if that's okay, we'll, and I apologize, this isn't on the agenda, so I just got.
No, that's good.
But I just think for a future topic for Steve to put on the agenda, and if you would help us with that, I think that'd be good. And then we'll decide what direction we go from there. So thank you very much, and I apologize for putting you on the spot.
My pleasure.
Okay,
Assistant City Attorney William Wisher. So just in case you didn't know.
I apologize for not introducing him, so. Okay, so we'll move on to 4B, request from Fodelicious to reconsider compliance failure and server training failure. Go ahead, Steve, if you want to update that one as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so here I get to get on my knees and apologize. So there are notice provisions that need to be followed anytime that we follow, or anytime that we initiate a penalty of some sort, whether it's administrative or another type of penalty. In this case, I did not provide the proper notice, and so Fodelicious found out about the action at Liquor Control Board subsequent to the Liquor Control Board meeting, and so he was here and was going to mention a couple of things, and I think that part of that, like your discussion about using a scanner and some of that kind of stuff, would probably be appropriate when we have a discussion with him. But at this point, what I would request, instead of having that discussion now, would be that we postpone this meeting until the next meeting, so that I have the proper can get the proper notice out to him and follow all of that. So just a motion to postpone at this point.
Do we have anyone willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to postpone.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And C, others, and Steve will help us with that.
Yeah, so we do have a walk-up item, and I, of course, have it in my other pile. Just a minute. Always be careful how many piles of information you bring to a meeting. So we had a downtown community task force meeting yesterday, and at that meeting, the DCP and Rocky is presented a challenge that they've had in the past with the street fair, and so I'll give a little bit of history here. It was probably 4 years ago or so. The street fair, or the DCP, came to the city commission or came to the Liquor Control Board and asked that we find a way to be able to have consumption in public. So a little background on our ordinances: we do not allow consumption in public of alcoholic beverages, with a couple of exceptions. One of them being the parking lot on the west side of the Fargo Dome, and that's essentially for the Bison football games, for tailgating. And then the other exception is for the DCP during a DCP event. Essentially, the only one that they've used it on is the street fair. So in the current ordinances, the way they are written, it says that the alcoholic beverage must be in a clearly identifiable event cup, and then the person that's consuming the alcohol needs to be wearing a clearly identifiable wristband. The problem has been is that the cup has, our vendors are generally our craft beer guys, and they're given a cup that they have to use, and then the cup has a sponsor like Bud Light or has somebody like that on there. So you're getting a Drecker beer and you're pouring it from the Drecker can that's clearly identifiable that that's a Drecker beer, and you're pouring it into a Bud Light cup. And so, the request partly comes from the vendors, but also through the DCP. And what they would like to do is modify the ordinance. Because of the time that it takes to modify an ordinance and to do all that, we might run into problems with the street fair. And so for the first year, they would like to just do like a pilot and see if they run into any issues, and basically put the onus back on the vendors, and the vendors can supply their own cups or vessels that the alcohol would be in. So that's my introduction, I guess.
Very good, thank you. And so go ahead, Rocky, if you want to introduce yourself and then kind of give us a summary of what the concept is. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Rocky Schneider with the Downtown Community Partnership and been on the job about 6 months, and I'm just gearing up for the street fair. I know it's been a popular event over the years, and alcohol has been new to us, and so I think we're learning a little bit every year. This was one of these issues that was brought forward from the vendors. We have 6 of them approved right now. 5 are local to downtown, kind of craft brewers. And, this is really a maker event. And so the issue that Steve described made logical sense to me. And so wanted to bring that forward. And I kind of had asked the question too. I understand the idea is to be easily enforceable. And we hire people that check the wristbands and watch people walking around. If they're drinking, they have a wristband, they're good. The cups, it seems like that makes sense. I'm not sure where it started with, but once you have a cup and a wristband, can you just pour anything in there too? And so it seems like there's a risk with giving a freedom with a cup too. I guess we'd prefer to just have the wristbands and make them clearly identifiable. So they're the DCP wristbands or the street fair wristbands, not just from any establishment. And then each of the providers or the distributors of the beverage will, have their own rules for checking IDs and things at their stops. And so we kind of do a double duty to make sure that works. But really just trying to simplify things. Hopefully it saves a lot on garbage too and pick up everything else along the way. So.
Can I ask, I don't think we've had serious issues as far as with people overconsumption and things like that during the street fair. And so I don't know if you know statistically, but I can't recall that we've had issues. And so I think it's been successful. And I guess when you think about it, wristbands, that's kind of what most large events, that's what they use. So
yeah, and I consume more at the Dome events, I think, in the tailgating than downtown. But yeah.
So can I ask for the street fair, is there specific locations that it's allowed? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there is. And I'm getting beyond my expertise because I haven't been through one of these yet, but there is a defined area that has signage, and that's where we have our security on the streets watching that so nobody leaves that area with their beverage.
Any other comments or questions from anybody?
Yeah, I've got a question, probably more out of curiosity, but where does the liability fall in this type of a situation?
Yeah, we carry an event liability. The street fair has a lot of different risks associated with it, and this is one of them.
Okay.
But the license holders, they have to have a license to serve, and are they e-licenses?
Yes, absolutely. So every one of the local vendors gets an e-permit. The out-of-town vendors that come, they're doing it. They're either a winery or a distillery, or a brewery, and so they get their event licenses from the state. And so then they can bring their alcohol into the city of Fargo. The local licensees have to get an e-permit, and they do that. And so then the other part is that as they're checking the IDs, and it seems to me in the past that they've checked every time you get a drink, not just when you get your first wristband. At least that's the way they've done it with me. Maybe I look suspicious when I'm getting my beer. I don't know.
Steve, I think you look a little suspicious. I'm not surprised they checked
I
your
think
ID.
so too. Yeah, better watch this guy. So part of that is to have that conversation with the person and to be, that's the server training, right? And to see, how many beers has this guy had, and are they handling it well, and that type of thing. And so that's part of that liability, but it's the liability insurance is definitely held by the DCP also. So.
We have a pretty stringent checklist that each alcohol vendor signs off on that has been through review as well. So.
Okay, any other questions? John?
Well, I was just going to make a comment. I like the idea that the cups would be designated for the 6 vendors, the 6 establishments. I think we have a hard enough time with fake IDs the way it is. And then to be on a street fair, hopefully that would help identify those that are having people approach with a fake ID too.
I would. So are you arguing for maintaining the cups, or I'm just a little?
I thought that was one of the things you said, is that the vendors may provide their own cups?
The vendors would provide, we would put the onus then on the vendor to provide the vessels, whether if it's Drecker and they have those unique cans.
Yeah.
Then you would know, hey, that they got that from Drecker, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So, and if a different vendor wants to, get a branded cup or something like that, you would know then where they got that beverage from. So,
Any other comments or questions? So if you wouldn't mind giving us a recommended motion.
So the recommended motion would be to ask the city commission to direct the city attorney to provide a resolution, I believe would probably do it, that would allow on a temporary basis or a pilot basis to make to allow the sale of the alcoholic beverages through the vendor-provided cups. Something along those lines.
I'll make a motion, something along those lines.
We have a motion.
When we go to city commission, it will have a really, really well thought out motion. So,
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second along those lines.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
That's it for our agenda for today. Anything else to add, Steve?
no, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. That's it, and have a good afternoon. We are adjourned.